Welcome to Enny's Diamond Stories, where real-life stories shine with timeless lessons, faith, love, and purpose. To our old and new subscribers, thank you for being part of this growing family. And if this is your first time here, you are truly welcome. At Enny's Diamond Stories, we believe that every story carries a diamond lesson, something precious that can shape the heart, strengthen families, and bring people closer together. As Christmas approaches, tonight's story invites us to slow down, reflect, and rediscover the deeper meaning behind the season we celebrate. Christmas is not just a festive season. It is not only about food, travel, or traditions. Christmas marks one of the most important moments in human history, the birth of Jesus, the moment God chose to step into the world to bring hope, peace, and unity to humanity. This story follows the journey of a notable woman, Mrs. Lawson, whose Christmas table becomes more than a place to eat. It becomes a symbol of what the birth of Jesus was meant to achieve, people from different nations, cultures, and backgrounds coming together as one. Through her journey, we will see how food becomes a bridge, how differences turn into beauty, and how the birth of Jesus still carries the power to unite hearts, families, and nations today. This is a story about Christmas. But more importantly, it is a story about unity, love, and God's purpose for humanity. For many years, Mrs. Lawson had traveled across the world. She crossed borders not only by plane or train, but by patience, curiosity, and humility. In every country she visited, she noticed something that never failed to move her. No matter the language spoken, no matter the culture practiced, and no matter the level of wealth or struggle, people paused differently during Christmas. Some paused with joy. Some paused with longing. Some paused with questions they could not name. Mrs. Lawson understood why. Christmas was not just a celebration of a season. It was the reminder of a birth that changed humanity. The birth of Jesus. As Mrs. Lawson moved from country to country, she noticed that Christmas looked different everywhere. In some places it was loud and joyful. In others, it was quiet and reflective. Some cultures celebrated with abundance. Others celebrated with simplicity. Yet beneath every tradition, one truth remained. Christmas gathered people. Families came together. Strangers were welcome. Lonely hearts searched for belonging. And often, even when people did not fully understand it, they were responding to something deeper. The arrival of Jesus had planted a longing for unity in the human heart. Mrs. Lawson did not ignore God in her travels. She noticed how the story of Jesus appeared again and again, even in places where faith was practiced differently. Sometimes it was spoken openly. Other times it appeared quietly in kindness, generosity, and hospitality. The birth of Jesus had done something remarkable. It had crossed cultures. It had crossed generations. It had crossed human boundaries. Jesus had entered the world not as a king surrounded by power, but as a child placed among ordinary people. God had chosen humility so humanity could find unity. One Christmas, after returning home from yet another journey, Mrs. Lawson felt an unexpected emptiness. Her house was decorated. The calendar marked the season clearly. The table was ready. Yet her heart felt unsettled. She realized something unsettling. Many people celebrated Christmas without understanding why it mattered. Others understood its meaning but celebrated it alone. Some honored Jesus' birth, yet still felt divided from one another. The world celebrated the birth of the Prince of Peace, yet remained divided. That realization stayed with her. Mrs. Lawson began to reflect deeply on the Christmas story. God had sent Jesus to unite humanity with himself. Jesus had come to break walls, not build them. The manger had welcomed shepherds, wise men, locals, and foreigners alike. If God used the birth of Jesus to unite heaven and earth, then Christmas should unite people with one another. That was when the idea was born. Her home would become a living picture of the manger. Not one culture, not one nation, but many, gathered together because of Jesus. Mrs. Lawson decided her Christmas table would carry meaning. 7 dishes from 7 countries she had visited. Guests from different nations and backgrounds. One gathering centered on gratitude for the birth of Jesus. Every dish would represent how God met people where they were. Every guest would represent how Jesus welcomed all. This was no longer a dinner. It was a testimony. Christmas evening arrived quietly. Guests stepped into the house one by one. Families from Africa, Europe, Asia, North America, and Latin America entered with curiosity and caution. Some were Christians. Others were still searching. Some understood Christmas deeply. Others knew only the celebration. At first, people stayed close to what felt familiar. The table was still covered. The room held expectation. The first dish was revealed. A roasted turkey from the United States, surrounded by familiar sides, filled the room with warmth. This dish reminded everyone that God had always provided: manna in the wilderness, daily bread for families, abundance where gratitude was practiced. Plates were filled. The atmosphere softened. Provision had opened the heart. The lasagna from Italy followed. Layered, slow, and intentional. This dish reflected how God worked through generations before Jesus was born. Promise upon promise. Prophecy upon prophecy. God had waited patiently for the right time. As the dish was shared, conversations deepened. The room slowed down. Jollof rice from Nigeria arrived boldly. Spice, color, and celebration filled the air. This dish reflected joy that survived hardship, the same joy the angels announced at Jesus' birth. Joy not dependent on circumstances but rooted in hope. Laughter followed. The room came alive. German sausages, sauerkraut, and warm bread followed. Simple. Honest. Grounding. This dish reflected the peace Jesus brought, not loud, not forced, but steady and faithful. The room grew calm again. Peace settled. Tamales from Mexico arrived carefully wrapped. This dish reflected shared effort, much like the community that gathered around the newborn Christ. Unwrapping them felt symbolic. Barriers fell. The table felt united. The Japanese-inspired dish followed. Unexpected. Balanced. Thoughtful. This dish reminded everyone that God met cultures differently, yet His love remained the same. Unity did not require uniformity. Acceptance grew. The final dish arrived. A French chocolate Yule log rested at the center. This dessert reflected completion, the fulfillment of God's promise through Jesus. The journey felt whole. Mrs. Lawson looked around. People were no longer divided by nation or language. Children moved freely. Plates were exchanged without thought. The table resembled the manger. Different people. Different journeys. One Savior. The birth of Jesus had done its work again. Mrs. Lawson understood something deeply that night. Jesus was not born to create a religion. He was born to unite humanity with God and with one another. Christmas was God's invitation to belong. The birth of Jesus still calls people together. It invites strangers to become neighbors. It invites differences to sit at one table. It invites the world to remember what unites us. Different dishes. Different cultures. One Christ. And that is the true miracle of Christmas. If this story touched your heart, encouraged you, or gave you something to reflect on this Christmas season, please subscribe to Enny's Diamond Stories. Here we share stories that teach life lessons, faith-filled reflections for families, real-life inspiration that brings people together, messages that help us grow in love, purpose, and understanding. Don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. Your engagement helps these stories reach more hearts around the world. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Thank you for being part of Enny's Diamond Stories, where every story carries a lesson worth keeping.